turn to Psalms 139. Psalms 139 and 14. Psalm 139 and 14. Let me see. If you got Psalm 139, let me hear you say amen. It reads as follows. I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth right well. The topic of this message is how you look at it. How you look at it. It's Psalm 14, Psalm 139 and 14. I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth right well. So, where I want to come at when I say how you look at it is that we all have to realize that God took precious time in creating us. And it's none of us that are the same. You can find two identical twins and their fingerprints are going to be different. It's no one the same. So when he got finished making us, guess what he said? You look marvelous. Marvelous are their works. It's right here. I'm reading it if you're with that. So when we look at that, whose report are we going to believe? Are we going to allow the enemy to come in and tell us, surely you're not fearfully and wonderfully made? Certainly you're not marvelous. We got to be able to tell the enemy, get behind me. Get behind me. What picture do we see? Do we go in the mirror in the morning and look at ourselves and tell ourselves that we were fearfully, wonderfully made and that we look marvelous? Do we tell ourselves that, or do we allow what the enemy tries to whisper in our ear to deceive us, to cause us to not walk in what we were made in? We were made in a certain way to walk in a certain way. And we were made in his image. So when we were made in his image, and we realize if you ever just put a imagine, and you know how sometimes you be making something, you be working real hard, you might bite on your tongue, you really put definition in it. No matter how tall or how short, what color, shape, size, creed, whatever, God took his precious time individually to make each and every one of us. We have to receive that in our hearts and know it. And once we receive, not only did he take his time, but he made us in his image. He took his time to make each and every one of us in his image, to be able to fulfill his will for our lives. And the closer we get to looking in the mirror and seeing God inside of us, the closer we get to realizing our purpose, what he has for us to do. The beauty is inside us. The beauty is inside us. It's similar to, I would say, most sea creatures. You know, crabs, shrimp, and stuff. You know, their shell is on the outside. The good part is on the inside. Our spirit is on the inside. That's the good part there. Our spiritual man, that's the good part. This right here, you know, we got marks. We remember when we fell down on the first grade and got a mark right there. This on the inside is the pure inside of us. This is the special part of us, our spirit man. So with that right there, we'll understand how important it is to keep ourselves groomed spiritually. Just like we get up every day and we brush our teeth and we comb our hair, we pick out our outfit, we put on our little gold, our little watches, we put on our nice shoes, and we walk out. We got a spiritual man that we need to get up in the morning and we need to make sure that we have brushed our spiritual teeth, combed our spiritual hair, put on our spiritual clothes, and that we're walking out in the spirit of knowing that we're wonderfully and fearfully made. We have to have our spiritual outfit on every day. We have to be concerned about how our spiritual appearance looks. You can't come out with your spirit, walk around, and your hair all nappy, your shoes all dirty. No, you got to walk out. When you leave out with your spiritual on, that has to be just as important, if not even much more important, than how we look on the outside. How do we look on the inside? And we got to hold on to what we look on the inside, because guess what? We're sharing. We're sharing with others so that they can see how fearfully and wonderfully they are made. If we was to be able to share that more often, we'll see a whole lot more difference in society and some of the things we see. Because sometimes we walk out, we haven't groomed ourselves spiritually. We groomed ourselves fleshly. So when we walking out, sometimes we thinking we more than what we really are. We think we think we're all this, and we forget that we just dressed up dirt. We forget we just dressed up dirt. We're walking by people. We don't speak. We don't give a kind word. We don't do none of that. We forget what we have inside, that we always have something to give. I talked to my students on Wednesday because we do chapel. And I told them, no matter who you are and where you are, you always got something to give, and that's your prayers. That's your prayers. Paul said, out of silver and gold I do not have, but what I have I give to you. We have it inside of us. We have prayers to be able to give to somebody. When you're pulling off on the highway and you see them and they have work for food, work for money. I might not have none of that, Reverend Amos, but I got a prayer for you. God bless you. Let things work out for you to where you don't have to do it. God, get into their life. Change their life, because guess what? We are only one or two decisions from being right there on that same highway with a sign. One or two decisions. We could have turned left one too many times, and we could have been on that same highway holding up a sign. So guess what? The same one or two decisions that caused them to make that decision and go off the road, Lord, lead them and guide them to make one or two decisions that'll turn them around. That'll turn them around and lead them down the path called straight. So many times we look, and the first thing we want to say is, this person is this, and they just trying to this, they just trying to do that. But God doesn't see it like that. We're fearfully and wonderfully made. That person was fearfully and wonderfully made. Now, we were made in His image. Are we going to follow through with that? Are we going to always look down on somebody or feel like they did? That's between them and their God. But your job is to pray. Your job is to lift up. Your job is don't look down unless you helping somebody up. Because if you look around, you can best believe every one of us in this room and outside the room probably have somebody that we're akin to that's standing on a highway with a sign. They might not be in Jacksonville, they might be in Detroit, they might be in Pittsburgh, they might be in Washington. You might not even know you kin to them. But when you plant that seed of putting somebody down, you know that seed sprouts up. And it sprouts up. If you bury an apple is going to come up. So if you bury bad seed, you're going to reap bad seed. So with us being fearfully and wonderfully made, we've got to be able to bury good seed so that when it comes up, we see good fruit, because that's what we are. We are farmers. Sister Golden Voice, you are a farmer. You plant seed. You plant seeds of love, kindness, joy, peace. This is what we plant. We even plant when we fast. We're planting when we fast because we're fasting for a reason. Because some things only come through fasting and praying. So we're planting. We're farmers. We are planting. What kind of seeds are you going to plant, realizing that you are fearfully and wonderfully made? What kind of seed are you going to plant? Once we make up our mind and understand who we are and whom's we are and who we belong to, we've got to have our mindset to walk that way. How in the world can you be a penguin and every time you look around you walking like a duck? That's not you. A penguin walks like a penguin. A duck walks like a duck. You are a child of God that was fearfully and wonderfully made. Walk like who you are. Don't walk like who you're not. That way, when you planting seed as a farmer, you're planting seed into walking and helping all of us to understand, or the next brother. Because guess what? It's a lot of us don't believe that we're fearfully and wonderfully made. A lot of us look at ourselves and think that it was a lot of mistakes made. And that it wasn't any thought, oh, I'm just here. Sometimes kindness and love will open the door to help someone realize how much time and effort and precious input was put into bringing them here. It was a lot of thought. Don't just thought, oh, it just happened like that. No, it didn't happen like that. God knew this a long time ago, that you would be here at this time doing this. When we analyze it a little bit more, we'll see that God makes crooked lines straight. We will look at certain things, we'll look at us and we'll see that we got certain curves in this right here, or we see we go in certain ways. But God makes them straight, and then you realize why you went through some of the curves. Because some of the curves, you might think that you went around this curve and it was a difficult curve that you went through. But the curve sometimes is to keep you from going straight head on into something that you can't really even deal and handle. So he may deter you a little bit. But when he detour you a little bit, he gonna get you right back on the road, long as you stay on the road. Sometimes we get so caught up on getting to the destination that we forget we got to stay on the road. We so busy trying to get there that we don't stay focused on staying on the road. We lose and we fall off. And then we get stuck. But we got to be able to keep ourselves spiritually groomed. That's why when we on the road, we'll have our spiritual spare tire. We'll have our spiritual jack. Because every once in a while, we might have to pull over and change the tire, because one of them tires might get bad on us. But I'm going to tell you, for all men, this is something good for all men. This is something for good all men. And I'm going to just tell you me. My wife is going to drive the best car out of two cars. I'm going to drive the raggedy truck that clunk, 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 and got to crank it 2 times and get on there and touch the starter. I'm going to make sure that she has some booster cables. I'm going to make sure that she has a spare tire, and I'm going to make sure she has a jack. You know why? Because she might have a flat tire, and I'm way across town. But if she got a spare tire and somebody nice like Gordon walk up, the first thing he going to ask, you got a spare? Change the tire for her. The battery might be dead because she was putting on her makeup in the mirror, first lady, looking pretty because she fearfully and wonderfully made, and she forgot to close it and the battery went dead. And you go ask somebody, Mama Mia, can you give me a boost? What's the first thing they going to ask you? You got some cables? Well, I sure do got some cables. Then you can get on the phone and call, baby, I'm so glad you put that in there for me because I done got me a boost, I'm gone. Sometimes we might not be able to get to our loved ones, so we got to make sure we have things set up in areas, and then we got to plant good seed. Because guess what? I might be the man that come and say, you got to spare and change the tire. The reason I'm changing the tire is because I'm putting a seed down because I never know when one of my loved ones might need. And I don't want no crazy, deranged person coming up to my wife talking about I want to change the tire and just got out the institution and stole some clothes and put on some clothes. He ain't got the regular white clothes he's supposed to have on. He got on some other clothes, and he coming up there, he ready to knock somebody side the head. So I want to plant good seeds. And it ain't all the time about what you going to give me after you do it. Well, hell, let me give you something. No, just pray for me. And if the opportunity comes for you to help somebody, help somebody. Because all along, I was fearfully and wonderfully made in God's image, and I'm just doing what my Father does. That's all I'm doing. I'm doing what my Father does. He helps us. He looks out for us. And what does he ask back? Nothing but for you to love us and do right. Anybody ever paid God back any money that he gave them? Anybody ever paid God back some money that he gave them, that he blessed them with? Because God don't want your money. God the one gave you money. God wants you to bless and love your neighbor as you love yourself. He wants you to love him. Even though you ain't seen him, he still wants you to love your neighbor, because how in the world you going to love me and you ain't seen me? But here this person here is in a need and you can't show no love to them. We've got to be able to show love one to another. That's the word. Let's show love to one another. Let's realize who we are. How we were made. We were made special. So we should act special. We should treat special. We should love special. We should spread this thing out. You shouldn't be walking in a room and some people in there and you don't say nothing. You can't walk in the room and say good morning. How you doing? Hello? You can't say that. So guess what? If we don't say that, how are we going to train our children to do that? How are we going to train this next generation that's coming up and they looking at us and they watching us and they seeing what they doing, and then you go and don't do it, and then when you don't do it and somebody say something, then they running to you and I'm just doing how my mom do. My mom don't speak to nobody. My daddy don't speak to nobody. He don't say nothing to nobody. It don't matter. We walk in the park and don't say nothing. Walk in the church, don't say nothing. What's wrong with just giving a nice, kind word? That person, you never know what that person done dealt with. And if you was wonderfully and fearfully made and the Spirit of God is in you, just you come in there and say, oh, you looking all right today. You all right? Can change her whole day. Could change her whole day, because she could be sitting there and saying, you know, there ain't nobody thinking about me, ain't nobody this and that, and somebody come and change that thing just like that. But we got to remember who we are. If we don't remember who we are, my next point, what looks like the ending is the beginning for God.